Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Hi, Alan.
Hello. Alan with cat. Excellent. Hello. Thank you all for joining us. Whether it's your lunchtime or wherever, if you would like to place in the chat where you're zooming in from, go ahead. I'm Carla. I'm the artistic director. I'm so happy to see everybody. Throw in the chat where you're coming in from, where you're zooming in from. Excellent. Yes. East Coast. Here we are, Bay Area. I'm coming in from the South Bay, the land of the Tamian Nation of Santa Clara County, the Muwekma Ohlone people, colonially known as Santa Clara. Welcome, welcome. Ah, yes, it's raining. It's not yet raining down here, but it could. Yay, Texas. I see you. Welcome, everyone. San Francisco, Cupertino. Yay, Lee.
Hi, Carla.
Welcome. Thank you all for joining us, whether it's on your lunch break or if this is your tea time for those in the East Coast, or maybe it's a late lunch. Welcome. We'll get started in a little bit, but so glad to see everybody for our last Let's Talk About of the year, of the season, as it were. I hope this December is treating everyone well, and that it always seems like a mad rush towards this last month. Well, I think, shall we get started, Dan?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump in, and others
All
will
right.
join
Well,
us.
welcome everyone. Again, my name is Carla Pantoja. I'm the artistic director of SF Shakes. Welcome for our final Let's Talk About series of the season. Welcome everyone. Feel free to put your land acknowledgement in the chat or where you're zooming in from. Land acknowledgement. Again, I'm zooming in from Santa Clara, the South Bay of the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and which is also the land of the Muwekma Ohlone people, the Tamian Nation of Santa Clara County. And I see folks from all over. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're so excited. We're gonna talk season 2025, y'all. We're gonna talk
Yes.
season 2025. And before we get started, I want to just say how grateful I am for closing the books on 2024. What a wonderful season we had this last year with As You Like It on tour, as well as The Tempest. The Tempest, if you didn't know or didn't hear, we were so excited that The Tempest made KQED's list of the best of 2024 theater. I'm so excited. We added a new location this last year at Sue Bierman Park. For those of you who haven't seen the pictures, or if you weren't able to join us, check out the website. Neil's got some beautiful, beautiful pictures with the ferry building and the bay in the background. It's gorgeous. And then now we just want to we're excited to share our 2025 season. And I will hand it over to Dan.
Okay, Carla, thank you very much. First of all, we want to thank everybody who has joined us today and who's joined us at these discussions in the past. We're going to make them a regular part of the San Francisco Shakespeare Festival programming, and they will continue into the spring and summer and for the rest of the year, and then we'll start them again in 2026. So we're very excited about this. And we see this as a wonderful opportunity for us to provide greater discussion and enrichment for all of our friends and supporters, and to be able to bring before you both wonderful, distinguished Shakespeare scholars, wonderful directors, wonderful actors, wonderful theater professionals, so that our goal in this whole series of programs is both to foster and present discussions about the plays and about Shakespeare in general, but also to draw back the curtain. I mean, we don't have curtains because we appear in the open air the way the Elizabethans did it, but to draw back the metaphorical curtain and bring all of our friends and supporters into the process of how a season gets built, how shows are chosen, what the directors are doing, how the directors are chosen, how actors are chosen, and then how we put this entire thing together with directing, acting, costumes, set design, sound. So our goal really is to pull back the metaphorical curtain as we go forward on all of these discussions and bring all of you into the wonderful project that we've all dedicated ourselves to, which is the stewardship of these extraordinary, wonderful, deeply valuable works of art, and how we take them across the bridge of 400 years into contemporary United States and into San Francisco and the Bay Area. So we, both Carla and Toby and Neil and I, could not be more pleased that you're joining us today, and we hope you'll stick with us as we go forward. So what I'd like to do to begin is to talk about the two absolutely wonderful, extraordinary theater professionals who are joining us today. And in doing that, I have to actually pull back the curtain and reveal the exciting news about our 2024-2025 season. And we have with us Sonny Orquiza, who is going to be the director of our big in-park main stage production in 2025. And we have Katja Rivera, who is going to be directing our touring company and our touring production in 2025. And will also be working with Eli on the main stage production. And without further ado, certainly not much ado, but without further ado, let me first ask Eli to tell us what the main stage production is going to be, and then we'll ask Katja to tell us what the touring company production is, and then we're going to cycle back and talk a little bit about how those productions were chosen and how Eli and Katja came to us in the San Francisco Shakespeare Festival as great theater professionals and wonderful directors and artistic leaders. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, without in any way revealing all of the fun and all of the surprises that are going to emerge from these two wonderful productions that are going up. We're going to talk a little bit about the plays, and in particular about one of them. So Eli, let's start with you. First, can you tell us just a little bit about your theater background and what brought you to San Francisco Shakespeare Festival?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thanks for that warm welcome, and hi everyone. Thanks for sharing your afternoon with us. I'm Eli, he, him, his. I'm tuning in from the Ramaytush Ohlone land here in San Francisco. And for this 2025 season, I'm going to be directing The Two Gentlemen of Verona, which
The reveal.
super excited about. And I'm going to be in collaboration with Katja, who will be directing for SOT, School on Tours. For just a little bit about me as an artist, I'm a San Francisco-based theater artist as a director and dramaturg here in the Bay Area. And my work centers queer narratives, Asian American stories, and its intersection with other identities for the American stage. I help develop new plays as a dramaturg. And really, I began my training as a performer actor for stage and screen at UC Berkeley when I was doing my training as a theater artist, and then immediately transitioned as a director upon learning that there's a dual dearth of opportunities for queer and Asian American theater artists here in the Bay Area, and lean into being a director to promote and amplify works of that nature, to bridge that gap, and really highlighting representation and visibility. And coming into Shakespeare, San Francisco Shakespeare this year, I'm super, super excited to be in collaboration. I was the assistant director last year and stepping into the director role this year. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful immersion into the world of SF Shakes and the programming.
Wonderful. Eli, we'll come back to you. Katja, can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, what's the touring production going to be? And tell us a little bit about your background as its director and as Eli's colleague in the main stage, Two Gentlemen.
Yeah. I am Katja Rivera, she, her. And the play this next year is Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, so there is a Verona component to this season. And is that good, or back to Eli, or
no, tell us a little bit about your background, Katja, and what brought you to San Francisco Shakes.
Yeah, I am originally from Los Angeles, did my first theater training at LA City College Theater Academy way back when, and moved up here to go to the Drama Studio of London at Berkeley, and never was able to leave. And I started out as a performer, though I've always directed here and there in high school, as a kid, at college, and finally started directing when, as a single mother, I wanted more control over my schedule and wanted to be able to bring kids to rehearsal. So that's how it started, out of necessity. And then I found out that I loved it, and loved holding the room, the production, being like the midwife, which is something I thought about being at one point.
Yeah. Well, so Eli, let's come back for a moment. Katja, we will come back to you because there's lots to say about the idea of Romeo and Juliet, particularly in connection with a touring company, which is going to spend a lot of its time in the last year. Typically, we touch the lives of about 45,000 kids in the touring company. And so there is a lot to say, I think, about some of the ideas that Katja will be bringing. But let's come back to Two Gentlemen and to Eli. Eli, share with us a little bit about how that play was chosen and what some of the initial thinking and discussions were between you and Carla and Toby in deciding about this. We've done, for those of you who have long memories, San Francisco Shakespeare Festival has done Two Gentlemen of Verona 3 times in the past, twice as main stage productions, not for, I guess, almost 20 years, and once as a touring production as well. So this is in some ways familiar territory for us. But Eli, walk us through sort of how did we wind up with two young men from Verona and Shakespeare's first play?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what's so interesting, Dan, is that originally I pitched Comedy of Errors as something that I would want to direct for this year. And unfortunately, there's just a bunch of Comedy of Errors that's happening in the Bay Area. It feels like there's a
You're not talking about the election, are you, Eli? You're talking about...
Yeah. So I was first introduced to Two Gentlemen of Verona back when I was 19 years old, so a long time ago. And back then I played Lucetta, the maid to Julia.
Yes.
So it was a
Yes.
very queer retelling of Two Gentlemen of Verona in an academic setting. And I thought, what better way it is to stage this play in this moment now because of the most pressing and urgent issues that it's bringing to the table. I know that the Two Gentlemen of Verona has its own series of what's the word for this? Series of things that people feel like it's not structurally written in a way that feels great for a narrative or a theater, but and granted it is Shakespeare's youngest plays, but yeah, I shared with Katja the idea of Two Gentlemen of Verona, and there was an enthusiasm around it. So I'm super excited to jump in.
Well, it's, I'm both intrigued and glad to hear you say that, because it is Shakespeare's first play. It's probably not regarded, Shakespeare was probably, we think he was between 25 and 27 years old when he wrote it. It is couched as a comedy. It's classified and typed as a comedy by Shakespeare's colleagues and the surviving members of his company, Hemmings and Condell, when they put the first folio together. It is an interesting play at many, many levels. And we'll come back to a couple of things that I wanted to suggest about this that I think are going to be very interesting to the audience as they see Eli's production go up. And I'm also interested, Eli, in your description of the academic production that you worked on of Two Gentlemen as well, because in a sense there is, Two Gentlemen sets up a tension, a dramatic tension between what is clearly both deep friendship, but friendship clearly with an erotic character between the two young men in the play, between Proteus and Valentine. And it kind of contrasts, that's the surviving big love, and the marital relations between Valentine and Proteus and Julia and Sylvia turn out to be actually in some ways secondary in the action. So it's going to be there's going to be a lot for the audience to be interested in this production. Katja, tell us a little bit about how you came to Romeo and Juliet for the touring production.
Similar journey to Eli. I had proposed All's Well That Ends Well, which has never been done by SF Shakes. But as we got closer to deciding, it became clear that there was a great hunger and demand for Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
And I said,
Yes.
well, that's a pretty good play, so I'll go. I'll switch. I'm good with that.
Well, it's so interesting because it's a play that in many respects it speaks so directly to the teenagers and the middle schoolers who are going to be your audience in their tens of thousands as this show goes on in the touring company and we go from school to school. How are you, again, without in any way suggesting that you should share any spoilers with us, we're all going to be very interested to see it, but tell me a little bit about how you're thinking about this, knowing that many of the audience members who are going to be seeing this are themselves going to be teenagers who are somewhere between Juliet's 14 and Romeo's 17 years of age.
Yeah, well, first, we don't just go to tours, to schools. We also go to libraries, community centers, senior centers. So the age range of audiences, as Carla once said, it's from, babes in arms and to people in their 90s. I don't know, perform for people in over a century mark, but probably.
Probably.
Yeah. So, I am casting the two leads as younger, actors, but of course they are at least out of college, both of them. So not the 14 and 16-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited that we have a breadth of age diversity in our cast too. That we have someone in their 20s and we also have someone in their 60s, which I find very exciting as an older, someone who's now above the above the 60 mark, north of the 60 mark. Yeah, and so we have made it in our cutting very plot heavy. Because we are performing this in a 50-minute segment session. So we've emphasized plot, and I'm also emphasizing how Juliet drives the action in this play, in the cutting. I really wanted to keep everything where she's like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go now. Let's do.
Yes.
Because I do think that she is, in a lot of ways, the driver of the action.
That's going to be a very interesting production. What can you share with us what the time in which you're going to set the production is, or do you want to hold that back until the production goes up? Hold it back. Hold it back. Eli, what about you? Are you willing to share with us when you're going to set the journey to Verona by these two young men?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we're setting it not in Verona for this version of the play, but in the Midwest. So it's going to be a very contemporary retelling of Two Gentlemen of Verona, where we journey from a small Midwestern town, a place rooted in simplicity and tradition, to the promise of California, a place where dreams are made and shattered in equal measure. So our Verona is going to be the Midwest, and our Milan is going to be California. So that already is an interesting dynamic of this two friends venturing westward. They confront their inner conflicts and are seduced by the promise of love and success and self-invention in our state.
That's gonna be terrific. It's interesting in the sense that although critics are often very down on Two Gentlemen of Verona, largely because it is, in fact, we're quite sure it was Shakespeare's first play. But what's always struck me about it is, and what I think our audiences, when they see it, are going to find very interesting, is that we see in Two Gentlemen 3 or 4 of the interesting and quite original theatrical ideas that Shakespeare had and explored throughout the course of his life in the theater. And it's amazing to me and interesting to me that we see them in a play written by a man who was 25 or 26 years old. You know, in Two Gentlemen of Verona, and they're relatively unique in the Elizabethan theater. Nobody else was thinking about these ideas, but you have in Two Gentlemen of Verona is the Shakespeare's first encounter with the idea of women disguising themselves as men, putting on men's clothing. And we see that in, you know, in As You Like It. We see that in Merchant of Venice. We see it in Cymbeline. We see it in Twelfth Night, you know, and so it's fascinating that this, you know, when Julia heads out into the forest, it's really interesting that, you know, this is the first, he's all of a sudden, he's interested in this idea of a woman finding both a greater measure of freedom and disguise and the ability to drive some action by doing this. And then you know, the other thing that I was struck by when I was looking back at this to think about some of the things that the three of us might discuss today, is this idea of the forest as the outlands and as the settled life, court life, ordered life taking place on one side, and the forest is the outlands. And it's a very different take that Shakespeare is beginning to talk about here in Two Gentlemen than the sort of traditional Elizabethan pastoral production or pastoral poem. This is very different. He's really setting this up not so much as a way of extolling the rural virtues of honor and simplicity. He's setting it up as the outlands are someplace where a lot of different things can happen, good things and bad things. You know, you think about the forest in Midsummer Night's Dream, or the forest of Arden in As You Like It, and the things that happen in the forest in Two Gentlemen. And then I'm going to shut up in a minute, but I just wanted to put this out for Eli and Katja to respond to it without in any way creating spoilers. The other thing is that Proteus, really the knave of these two young people, the one who in the end yields to temptation in terrible ways, does things that are really bad, that, you know, it's sort of healed in the fifth act, but he does some really bad things along the way. But he's like a self-conscious adolescent about it. I was you know, I was struck by Eli's emphasis on their youth. And in a sense, you know, I sort of see foreshadowings of Iago or Edgar or even Macbeth in Proteus's descent from honorable conduct to really bad conduct in this. So anyway, so I'm just throwing those out. I think that it's fascinating to see in a play by a 25-year-old, 27-year-old, whatever it is, the beginnings of these themes that are going to recur with increasing depth and wisdom in the rest of in the rest of the arc of Shakespeare's life. I'll be very interested. You know, I think the audiences are going to be really interested to see how, Eli, how you and Katja handle those in Two Gentlemen, and Katja, some of the ways in which you handle the youthful love in Romeo and Juliet, like the youthful love in loves in Two Gentlemen, as these productions go up together.
Yeah, Dan, I find your thought so interesting about like bringing up the motif of the forest. I've worked on Midsummer before. I've worked on As You Like It, and all of those themes of, you know, the outlands or the forest is very prominent, especially for Two Gentlemen of Verona. I love to think that, this motif of the forest is a place for, all of these characters who are in this kind of city place going somewhere, find themselves in a way more authentic. It feels like in the forest, characters are more authentic or connected to their true versions of themselves, whereas in the city, it's more so artificial civilization where societal and the political and the cultural are constructed. And definitely for our version of Two Gentlemen of Verona, we see Julia being in disguise, and Sylvia finds refuge in the forest. So there is this kind of messaging where it's a place for them to gain their agency. It's also kind of a place for them to really find their true selves in some ways. It's also in some ways too, the forest for our Two Gentlemen of Verona is a space for rebellion.
Yes.
Not just the actual physical actionable rebellion that's happening with the outlaw, but also for the female characters, really rebelling against societal expectations, especially about the roles that were imposed on women within the family in the marriage. Both Julia and Sylvia are definitely challenging the norms of their time. Julia in pursuit of Proteus, disguised as a man. Sylvia trying to escape with Valentine. And I think both of those are acts of resistance to the control men have over their lives. So something that I thought are really, really interesting themes that's coming up.
It's also so interesting because it's fascinating to think back to the way these plays would have originally been presented and to the really, in some ways, quite striking gender fluidity that's embedded in this of necessity, because an Elizabethan audience would be looking at a boy playing a woman playing a boy and holding the fluidity of these transitions in their heads and they clearly did it. The audiences clearly got it, but it's a fascinating kind of an idea. We're sort of reaching towards greater gender fluidity, but they had it baked in some ways, or at least imposed on them. Katja, it's so interesting because this speaks to Romeo and Juliet as well. It speaks to the sort of closed circle of life in the two families in the town, their dream of going elsewhere, of running away, and the power, as you're describing it, of Juliet's agency as the young woman. There's a lot of good. I see a lot of things going back and forth with these productions.
Interesting. Yeah. I think one of the themes I'm really exploring is time and how our lives can change in an instant. And particularly there's the moment when they fall in love and it's love at first sight. And we tend to think of that as a youthful thing. But I would argue that that's not a youthful thing, that it can happen at any time in your life. And I speak from personal experience.
Yes.
So I want to explore how our lives can change in an instant, not only with their falling in love, also with the fights and deaths of characters, how the Romeo and Juliet feel like they're going on one track, and then this happens and then this happens, so how they are buffeted, and they have the constraining thing of their two warring families, that obstacle, and it would it would be interesting to think. It's interesting to think about how that might have been if there wasn't that. there wouldn't be a play.
Yes, yes.
But
yes.
yeah, how, how we put these ideas of who we are and why we can't, see the other person as human.
We're all fortune's fools one way or another in some
Yeah.
ways.
Indeed. Yeah, yeah.
So as you think about this, okay, I'd love to hear from each of you a little bit about some of your ideas as you worked on casting. As I understand it, both of these productions are fully cast and are now actually in production. Is that in rehearsal? Is that right? No. Okay. So Katja, do you want to talk a little bit about what your thinking is about casting?
Well, actually, I think we are waiting on one last actor to be fully
Okay.
cast, unless Carla
Okay.
has news for me. Uh, so close. So in the Shakespeare on Tour, we cast 10 actors for 5 parts. They're the 5 primaries and the 5 alternates, not understudies, alternates, because the alternates will go on for
Right.
the primary actor. And we encourage the alternates to bring their own selves, their own interpretations to their portrayal, not to try and imitate the primary actor. So there, we have one track where it's a 50-year-old woman and a late 20-year-old man, white woman, queer Asian man, and they're both bringing their own selves to this.
Right.
Yeah, but we will start rehearsing January 7th, so we are not in rehearsal yet.
When do you go up in the touring company? When do
February
you
1st will be our first final dress, pre-opening night, and then the next week they'll be
out there?
Yes.
And can you share with our friends and supporters, because I'm not sure everybody really knows the complex logistics of getting the touring company up and out and how that actually works. That would be I think, very interesting to the people on the call to hear a little bit about that.
Yes. So not only do they have to learn the show, they also have to learn how to drive a van, how to be a teaching artist, particularly, the SF Shakespeare curriculum, how to teach that, and how to load and break down the set, because those 5 actors, they meet in the morning, they drive to the location, and this is if it's not an overnight. They set up the set, they perform, they break down the set, they drive home or to the next location if there's a second performance that day. So it's not just acting, it's, it's a
Yes.
whole.
It's theater. It's bringing theater.
Exactly. Very, very exciting. I wish I'd done it.
Ah. So Eli, tell us a little bit about where you are in your casting process and what your thinking is about that.
Yeah, I think for our casting, we have more than half of our cast officially booked, but we're still waiting for a couple more names, actors to confirm whether or not they would want to participate in this program. But for my version of Two Gentlemen of Verona, I'm very interested in shifting power dynamics into the play. I traditionally, the Duke and the father roles, Antonio, Eglamour, are all cast as male, but for my production, I'm going to have a female actor for it. So it's going to be a matriarch heavy play. So in a sense, it's challenging this traditionally authoritative notion of a patriarch and leading into a matriarch world and really altering the structures of power in our Verona. So I'm definitely interested and curious in that. In terms of our Proteus and Valentine, we have a white actor playing Proteus and a mixed Latinx actor playing Valentine. And I think both of our both of our Julia and Sylvia are Black and Latinx. So really kind of shifting the dynamics of the desire of these men as well. And in terms of casting, I'm very interested in you know, having stories of bodies in place, and our visual information of it being informed also by the text. So thinking about shifting what that would look like. I know that one of the our Sylvia is a mass presenting femme actor, and that definitely would create an interesting, complex addition to the story of Proteus leaving Julia for Sylvia in terms of
right.
so that there's definitely much more of an intentional matrix in terms of my casting for Tugent. So I'm super excited to add more layer to the meaning of this play.
And when do you start rehearsals for the production? Do you have a target date in mind?
Oh my goodness, we don't start rehearsal until the summer, so we have plenty of time to explore and play. But
Okay.
we will have our text workshop, script workshop happening in late March, where we get all the ensemble around the table and really digging deeply into the text and analyzing a little bit more.
Do you bring the costume designer and the set designers into the text workshop as well, or how do they begin to integrate their artistic work into this?
Yeah, that's a great insight, Dan. Question. I don't believe we do bring them. I was part of the script workshop last year, and it was just primarily artist centered. Although I do know that between now and the script workshop and the first rehearsal, there's going to be a lot of conversation with the designers about what the play would look like, what the world would look like based on designs.
That's a
And
question that I could probably answer.
please, Carla, our artistic director speaks. This is great.
Maybe sometimes. This is also just checking in on time. I know we have a couple of questions in the chat. We also have questions that came into us from when folks registered. Thank you so much for sending those in advance. Connecting to this question that you raised, Dan, also is connecting to some of these questions that folks are wondering, how soon do we plan and how do we plan a season? Getting back to the beginning, we at SF Shakes, with a directing hiring team, we had an open call for directors, and both Katja and Eli sent in a proposal, and we were asking directors, instead of this is our play, fit yourself into it, we were asking directors to come to us and tell us, what play do you want to direct with us? And so both Katja and Eli had proposals and some ideas, and the directing team said yes, let's. And we're doing something a little differently. You all might know that Eli and Katja are back again. Both have been assistant directors in the programs that they are directing. We are working towards a multi-year relationship with directors so that folks can come into each program, learn about the program, and then morph into a more heavy lift as directors. And so
Yes.
Katja this year is going to be doing quite a lot of work with us, in that she will be directing our tour and then assistant directing our free shakes, which then she will go into, hopefully, if all goes well. And you all are hearing this. You're hearing this
First time.
first.
This is
For the
the
first
inner
time.
circle, guys. This is the inner
That's right.
circle.
That Katja will be returning again in 2026 to direct for Free Shakes.
Fantastic.
And that's the hope. And so the place that we're choosing is secondary. It's the people we're choosing to work with. It's the people we want to work with. and we want to go with some of the things that they're excited about. The difference with the tour is that the tour does have parameters. We have reached out to many of our schools that we work with, and they have given us kind of a short list of what's on their curriculum. How do we work together with schools to get them what they need to help supplement and complement the work that they are doing? And so Romeo and Juliet is high on the list. All's Well, As You Like It. Well, we did As You Like this last year. Those things are what have been brought up by schools of like, ooh, we're doing this. It would be great if we could also have you come into our school so the students can actually see what it is on its feet. And so that's what we're doing with the tour. And from there, we've been working on this season for a while, for a minute. We are in the process of hiring designers. Designers will get a copy of the script. We'll have a meeting with each director to talk about the director's vision. Maybe it's colorscaping. Katja's got a Pinterest board going on. We talk about all these things with and talk budget. I'm going to be working on both of these productions as a fight director for both of them, and so they will have different needs, and so talking about and making sure that all the things follow what their vision is, if that gives you an idea. And no, the designers are not brought in for that initial script workshop for free shakes. It's really a chance for a deep dive into the language and a way to make sure that we have that script cut to a total of the show about 90 minutes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And one thing which I can promise to all of our friends, Carla and I can promise, is we will bring some great Shakespeare scholars online to talk with us about each of these plays. We'll probably do it, one play per event, because otherwise it just gets too complicated. But we will definitely be diving much more deeply into the scholarship and the history and the artistic issues with respect to these plays as we go forward. And we're very excited about that. And we've got a great roster of potential speakers and discussants. So there's lots of good things that are gonna come as we go forward into the spring and into the summer. So Carla, what are some of the questions that people are asking?
Yeah. So first question that we have in the chat, but also that came through, is where are we going to be? What locations? So the tour goes from February until mid-May, touring to multiple schools, community centers, libraries. There will be opportunities, y'all, to see, for general public to see a free performance of Romeo and Juliet, our tour, which is part of our season. And so check our website. That will be updated on the tour website. It depends. Usually it'll be like a library or a community center near you that you can attend at your leisure. Again, the whole production is about 50 minutes, so it's really perfect to have littles come to see the show, or at least, it's a soupçon of Shakespeare, as it were. And then we are hoping to return to the same locations that we did this last season. So that is Cupertino, Redwood City, McLaren Park in San Francisco, and then hopefully returning to Sue Bierman in San Francisco. I see the question about going to the Bruns in Orinda. Oh, the Bruns. I just have to take a moment to say, thanks to Cal Shakes for all that they have done in the community as a theatrical pillar. And I think about them opening their doors to us so that we could perform Cymbeline there 2 years ago. It's not on our roster at this time, but who knows? Things change so quickly. I can't, I couldn't possibly give a definitive answer. So that's where we're going with free shakes. And again, free shakes, it's free. Bring your family, bring a picnic, come on. And then a question to the directors. Maybe we start with Katja this time. Talk about the intention of using these productions to comment on contemporary times. I appreciate, Tom, your, no pressure to do so, but I think I think we can't produce theater and art without thinking about the context of where we're living now. We do not live in a vacuum, and part of art and part of the themes of Shakespeare is to show that we're still connected to people around us, even though these are words that are very old. From a some folks are like, oh yes, a dead white man, that's correct, but the themes are still about the human condition. So Katja, where are those points to comment on contemporary times for Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah, we are in a deeply polarized state of being. And I might go red and blue. I might in my color schemes with the families. I might be that like. So yeah, I think it very much that theme is very current and modern. And the line that just sticks out for me is "bred of an airy word" by thee, Capulet and Montague. That it's words that are inciting this, there are issues, but it's words that incites this violence.
Hmm. Hmm.
Words are powerful,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Eli?
Yeah, I think for me, I've shared this a lot during the callbacks, but for me, through this lens, really taking on that spirit of a road trip adventure, embracing the cultural diversity and the complex the complex realities of American landscape. I also see Two Gens as an immigration play where it mirrors modern trends of migration, particularly from rural to urban areas in pursuit of opportunity. It also resonates with our contemporary political struggles over bodily autonomy, particularly around context of reproductive rights, queer issues, acts of gender-based violence is also a thing in the play. So all of these are some of the themes that I would definitely want to highlight. And also this question of geography, really examining how geography influences our behavior, and seeing how, this desire of self-invention coming from elsewhere to somewhere new, takes on a different spin on personality and movements and behaviors that come with it.
Hmm.
Any other questions to put in the chat, y'all? Something I'm really excited about these plays is how, and I see you put it in there, Catherine, of the equivalencies of these plays are absolutely still relevant today.
Hmm.
Because of these themes are just part of the human condition, even though Two Gentlemen of Verona is one of the first play that Shakespeare has written. There's some really complex things going on with the characters, particularly Dan brought it up earlier with Proteus. Is there something redeemable? What do we all do in pursuit of our desire to, what is success, to succeed? And I love the idea of modern immigration, thinking about folks coming from the Midwest to, say, California. I am in the heart of Silicon Valley, y'all. That's absolutely what it has been about here, is transition to opportunities and
And of course
success, what that is. Yeah.
and of course that must inevitably have been, if not in the forefront, at least in the background of Shakespeare's own mind. We don't know exactly how he came from Stratford upon Avon, which was a very small, rather remote town in Warwickshire, to the London theater world. The first written notice that we have of his presence there is the rather vituperative critic Robert Greene attacking him as an upstart crow, but it must surely have been an experience like what Eli was describing, for him to come from Stratford to the London theater world to make his way there. These can't possibly be ideas that were foreign to him. In fact, they must have been ideas that were really animating a lot of his thinking, because they were an important part of his life. Deciding, it's really remarkable to think that a young man raised to be a glover in Stratford would wind up deciding that he was going to create a new profession of theater entrepreneur, playwright, actor, theater owner, sharer in the acting company. He created something quite unique out of this that had never been done before by anybody. He's a first. So these are, the things that Katja and Eli have been talking about really must have been things that formed a part of the furniture of his own mind in the work that he was doing.
One thing I just thought of also is that just in terms of the canon, Eli went from working on the very last play that Shakespeare wrote to the very first play.
Right.
And Romeo and Juliet, I believe, is the first tragedy that
Yes.
he wrote.
Yes.
So you're working on the first comedy, I'm working on the first tragedy.
It's going to be a great season, and we are just, we want all of you to come enjoy it with us, see the excitement that these two the talents and the commitments and the thoughtful insights of both of our directors speak for themselves. They don't need any prompting from Carla or from me. This is going to be a great season, and we are really excited to have all of you join us for as much of it as you can, as many times as you can. Just come one, come all.
Well, time check, y'all. It's 12:58. Thank you so much for those of you who have to drop off. For those of you who have time and to hang out with us, we have a couple more minutes. If there are any questions that you have, please put them in the chat. As always, we are so grateful to have you be a part of this. If you believe in our season, believe in what we do, that Shakespeare is for everyone, that art is for everyone, please feel free, if you have capacity, to donate to us at sfshakes.org/donate. Please consider a donation to support us and what we do. We're excited. I'm so excited for this, from our two households, both alike in dignity, all the way through the two gentlemen. Verona is where we lay our season. You'll hear it again, trust me. I just couldn't help it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. And a round of applause for Eli and Katja. A great internet round of applause.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Stay tuned in your email
Thanks,
inboxes
Lee.
for when we start to announce the next round of our discussions with some of our scholars, directors, and friends.